Well, greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is still doing well. And how about a bonus upload to end the night with? Before we jump into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and the merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. Links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. Merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It does not cost you a cent. Click that like button, takes half a second. If you don't want to miss out on any of the informative uploads I put out daily, click that bell icon. And folks, please leave a comment. Why? Well, because all these things, they really do help this channel to continue to grow and go, and they definitely do matter. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's jump into tonight's bonus, shall we? All right, folks, so I'm going to toss in a couple of two of my favorite video clips that I truly believe are Dogman. They're on the internet now. I remember when I first stumbled upon them, no one was sharing them. Now everyone shares them. But these, to me, are two of the best possible evidence of Dogman. But I've got some pretty awesome encounters too. So let's get into it all. Today's first encounter is a subscriber submission. Hey Jeff, my name is NS and I live in Selkirk, Manitoba, Canada. This is in the prairies, central Canada. First of all, I just have to say I love your show. You're a great host. Last fall, my adult son had two encounters. I don't know if they were Dogman or werewolves. We live about 20 miles north of Winnipeg. Selkirk has about 11,000 people here. The outskirts of town have a lot of trees, and we're situated along the Red River. One night, I believe it was August of 2019, my son was walking home from work, where he was working at the time. He was getting off shortly after midnight. It's only about 5 or 10 minute walk. He'd walk up the next street from where we live, and that would take him directly to work. He came home after his shift, shaking and upset. He said something was following him, but keeping behind the house as he walked. It was tall, walking upright and strange-looking. It gave him the creeps. My son's father is a native Canadian, and my son said he felt like it was somehow connected to the Aboriginal culture. We have a large indigenous population here. About 2 months later, he again got off shortly after midnight and was going to meet his girlfriend, who lives on the other side of town, about 2.5 miles away. That part of town is much quieter. He met up with her for a little while. They had a few drinks and was walking home around 2 in the morning. He called me, kind of laughing. He said, "Mom, I must be drunk." I thought that was strange because I can always tell when he's had too many. He doesn't drink often. He sounded perfectly fine. I asked him why he thought that, and he told me, well, I just passed a werewolf walking in the opposite side of the street from me. That's when I started doing research. I've never heard of a Dogman or thought werewolves could be real. Since it was dark, he didn't know if it had a tail or not. He said it was at least 7 to 8 feet tall. Didn't pay any attention to him. It just kept walking. Could you possibly find out from your contacts how many Dogman or werewolves are living in my area? I'd really like to know. I would very much appreciate any information you could give me. Thank you for what you do. Keep it up. I hope you are well. Wishing you all the best. NS. Well, NS, I can tell you, unfortunately, Victor does not have any information about any Well, no, actually, he may be able to see if there's any tagged creatures up that way. I will ask him when I talk to him on Friday. Unfortunately, there is no way of knowing how many wild ones are out there. I would like to, sometime if possible, talk to your son. Possibly have him come on and share these encounters in his own words, if that's possible. Thank you for sharing this with us. I appreciate it. Today's second encounter. Something that crosses my mind every once in a while is a weird experience I had as a child. Must have been 8, maybe 11, when I was talking to a friend in our apartment complex in broad daylight. We saw a huge animal that resembled a wolf, but much, much bigger, in Tacoma, Washington. Year, I'd say maybe between 2009 and possibly 2011. I knew it wasn't normal. In fact, I stood there shocked the whole time I saw it. It was staring at me, like it wanted me to see it. It's almost as if it had something to tell me and was trying or was communicating with me. I had a feeling it didn't want me to be scared, and I wasn't. Just in complete shock as I locked eyes with it. All it did was slowly walk until it disappeared around the corner. I would say it was maybe 5 feet in height, very large, but not too much visible muscle, pitch black, bright yellow, or red eyes. If you've watched Twilight, it looked very similar to the size and body. I don't think it was a Dogman, as its body didn't look human-like to me or hunched back. But also, it was so long ago I can hardly remember specific details. Edit, it was walking on 4 legs, not 2. I remember when I finally snapped out of it, I struggled to tell my friend what I had saw, as she had her back turned from the direction I saw it. I gathered all my friends in the complex so we could go look for it, but found nothing. It's bothered me ever since. I have a weird feeling as if I had a connection to this creature and just want to know what it could have been. Today's third encounter is a subscriber submission. I saw it in the comment section, and a lot of other subscribers were chatting with him about it. I asked him to send it. He had an Owlman sighting in the La Tuna Canyon area. Well, here's my encounter, and I'm not a big storyteller or anything like that. I'm from San Fernando Valley. It happened where I live, La Tuna Canyon, in the city of Sun Valley. It's a farmland area, close to the old roads that go to Palmdale and Bakersfield. So I'm coming home from work, and I'm walking a 3-mile trip. No, this is regular city. But when I come down to where I live, there's a big landfill where they collect concrete, I believe. Anyway, that's kind of an idea of how it looks. It's a lot of industrial areas until you get to the landfill area. That's where I live, in the farms. As I'm walking home, no, I didn't mention it was pouring rain and I'm on the skateboard, California surfing. Anyway, as I go to the landfill, I had this weird feeling to walk because I was at unease. And what was so weird is I got stuck thinking very deeply into life. Weird, right? Then I just start hearing the weirdest noise. It's a flapping noise. I look up and see this white owl with a wingspan of 7 to 9 feet. It's beautiful and majestic, but also very terrifying. I was only able to see the wing, sort of like how you would picture an angel. When I saw it, I booked home even faster. I couldn't see its body well. That's it. I don't know if this is juicy enough to hear, but I'd love to answer more questions. Maybe this post is worthy of your channel. This was real. The more I hear stories, the more it tells me this was not the regular Owlman. Today's fourth encounter. Marion County, Texas. First, my cousin was talking on the phone at about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. His mobile home is way out in the woods with no neighbors, and we heard a loud and very unusual noise which sounded like a scream. He's been in the woods all of his life, and he has never heard anything like it before or since. It startled him enough that he had me get a large German Shepherd to keep around his house. Second, I went to his house every weekend during deer season to hunt. We put some feed out for the deer a couple of weeks before season started, and I positioned my stand approximately 100 yards from the feed. The first weekend of deer season, I was walking to my deer stand approximately 5:45 in the morning. It was cool, slight haze of moisture in the air like a light fog. Not light yet, but just starting to get to where I could see a little. I was walking a pretty fast pace through the woods on a trail that leads to my stand. I was watching the ground as I walked because the terrain's pretty rough. All of a sudden, I got a really weird feeling, froze in my steps. At that same time I stopped, I looked ahead of me, approximately 10 yards, and there stood something to this day gives me the chills to think about. I thought it was a person, because the first thing I saw when I looked up was eyes. It stood off the edge of the trail and seemed to be leaning out slightly from behind the edge of some trees and brush. All I saw was its head and maybe the shoulder and arm. But the thing that stands out the most was it was much taller and larger than I am. I stand 6 feet and weigh 190 pounds. Its head was huge. It was positioned like it was watching me come up the trail. At the exact moment I looked up and our eyes met, and there was no doubt whatsoever that we made direct eye contact, and then it was gone. For a split second, I thought, what the heck was that? Did I really see that? And for something that seemed to be so big, it made very little noise leaving. I did hear rustling of branches and leaves as it left, but not much. I drew my weapon up in the ready position and then backed out of there as quickly as possible without running, because it was still not light enough yet, and I was afraid that whatever it was circling me. So I kept turning this way and that way, watching all sides as well as I could. I never heard another sound except my pounding in my chest. I actually don't think I would make it back safely for the first couple of minutes. We've all heard that saying, fear nothing but fear itself. Well, that's a load of crap. In that same situation, I believe that any person would feel like I did. It was intense, to say the least. Today's fifth encounter, Polk County, Texas. This is what happened, as told to me by my sister-in-law, who lives with my wife and family. On this night, she had my baby daughter in the room with her, on the bed. She was getting up to close the blinds to the window. She said she could see the stars up in the sky that she had noticed earlier that night. As she got up off of the bed, she turned to make sure her niece wasn't going to fall from being close to the edge. When she turned back toward the window, she noticed something looking in from the outside. It scared her so much that she grabbed her niece and ran out of the room to tell her mother, who was in the other room of the house. Her mother then called my place of work to have me come back to the house and take a look around. As I first arrived, I noticed that there was some kind of bad odor in the area, but as I kept looking around along with my coworker, who gave me a ride back, and my mother-in-law on the east side of the house where there were no lights, we all heard something stepping on twigs, branches laying on the ground, for the snapping and breaking noise that it makes. As I attempted to walk toward the noise, whatever was there seemed to move further back into the woods, out of reach of my flashlight. After looking around, we went to ask my sister-in-law if she could say who or what she saw in the window. All she could say is this: big, black, hairy, and something about its eyes. She's really talkative all of the time, but after that happened, she looked like she was in shock. Her face was pale and her eyes seemed to like she was lost. Right after this happened, she told her mother, who was in the hallway of her room, who then called me, to be en route back to the house, where I'd just started my shift at work, in about 4 to 5 minutes. My coworker and myself arrived at the house to find my mother-in-law on the front porch waiting for us. As we got out of the vehicle to take a look around towards the back of the house, all three of us heard noises in the woods on the east side, just out of reach. The noise we heard sounded as if something was moving further into the woods, like something was stepping on branches, and you could hear the popping and snapping. Today's sixth encounter, Polk County, Texas. Something's really going on there. In March 2005 at approximately 4:30, as reported by an individual called to the scene as part of an emergency response team. An individual was involved in a single-car accident on the highway through Big Thicket National Preserve, Big Sandy Creek Unit. Upon arriving at the scene, the response team found the individual still in the car. The car apparently rolled and ended up in the woods off the highway. The individual reportedly gained consciousness when the team arrived, and then began to tell them what had happened. The individual remembered seeing a dark, upright figure with long hair standing in the middle of the road. The height of the figure could have been anywhere between 5 to 8 feet, and certainly bigger than a child. The individual remembered that the figure was facing the car and standing erect. The individual honked its horn at the figure, but it didn't budge. He then swerved to miss the figure and came as close to 20 feet before veering off of the highway and rolling his car. That's the last thing he remembers before crashing. All right, folks, some very terrifying encounters. Let's jump into some very terrifying, or what I like to consider very fascinating video evidence. These couple of video clips are probably, in my eyes, some of the most realistic and possibly real Dogman evidence. Let's check it out. All right, folks, that was tonight's bonus upload. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Guys, I really do appreciate all of your support and kindness. Last night's live stream was truly amazing. You guys who came out for it were we had so much fun. I never get tired of hanging out with you all. And it's just a really great time, an amazing experience for me, because I get to hang out with like-minded people, so thank you once again. And everyone stay safe, happy, healthy, and ever vigilant. You know the rest. But I have to say this. God bless you all.